Hey guys, so today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the things I found after rereading chapters 1 to 3 of Cassandra Clare's Chain of Gold. More disclaimer, by no means is this video a book review. It's more of a close reading, picking up on any references that could mention any other books in the Shadowhunter Chronicles, any important details that we might have missed out. Obviously there will be some spoilers in this video, so if you haven't read Chain of Gold, please go and come back, and then this will all make so much more sense, trust me. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to pick out is in chapter 1 when James and the Merry Thieves are on their way to the Devil's Tavern to get cleaned up after the demon has just exploded, and there's an inscription that I think could be important. So the inscription says, "It matters not how a man dies, but how he lives." So this could mean anything. It could just be a random quote from an Edwardian thinker, or something historical that we should know that I don't know because I haven't studied the Edwardian era before, or it could be really important. I feel like Cassie always likes to drop these random references in that you don't realise were either foreshadowing things. Could this mean that someone dies in Chain of Iron or Chain of Thorns, and then everyone's saying, oh, it doesn't matter how he died but how he lived? Could this happen? We don't know. I hope not, but I have learned not to cancel out any theories because anything is possible, and I think that's really good but also really scary. Okay, so I really loved when Cordelia and Alistair are moving to their new home with Sona, and waiting for them is James, Lucy and Tessa. I really liked how Cassie called her Tessa Herondale. I know that's her name, but having just reread The Infernal Devices, it was just, I was so satisfied to see it like on paper, because there's so much angst in The Infernal Devices, and it's nice to see all the angst resolved and them being happy parents. So I just really liked that. And I feel like I didn't give that enough credit when I first read the book. Also, when they talk about Charlotte Fairchild, how she was the first female consul, my heart just burst, because even though we know she's consul at the end of The Infernal Devices, again, just seeing it in writing is just confirmation that they've made it. And I think someone needs to tell Clary, maybe in the Wicked Powers, that she is directly related to the first female consul. She needs to know this. Okay, so before I started rereading Chain of Gold, I read Ghosts of the Shadow Market. One of the stories in Ghosts was Every Exquisite Thing, where Cassie introduced the character of Anna Lightwood. So that story is set about 3 or 2 years before Chain of Gold. It's really nice to reread Chain of Gold and see developed Anna Lightwood. So the quote I found was in the when Tessa and Will throw the ball to welcome the Carstairs family to London, and there's a bit when Matthew is hiding under the table and James goes to find him, and then Anna walks in and she's like, what are you two doing? Like, we need to go. And this is such a nice quote of Anna Lightwood. I really appreciated this. Lounging against the wall was James's cousin Anna Lightwood, gorgeously dressed in fitted trousers and a pinstriped shirt. If by fetch you mean drag you back to the ballroom, by any means possible, Anna said. There are girls who need someone to dance with them and tell them they look pretty, and I cannot do it all on my own. Just great. The character development is just brilliant. I love to see it. And the first time I read Chain of Gold in April, I hadn't read Every Exquisite Thing, so I didn't really connect with Anna's character as much. But now, you know, 10 points. 10 points Anna Lightwood. Another important point of the ball that I picked up on is that at the start Cordelia wears really horrible lacy pastel dresses, but I always forget that she spends a good part of the book walking around in these clothes that don't suit her because Sona tries to dress her up like the Parisians dress. There's this line that says Sona had chosen Cordelia a dress of pale lilac edged with glittering bugle beads, and I just think, I wonder where the fan art of this is. I would love to see horrible fan art of Cordelia in this just really gross dress. It kind of reminds me of when Tessa first came to the London Institute, and Jessamine takes her out to buy her all these clothes. And at the start she had to wear Jessamine's really small lacy dresses, and then she goes out and she gets these really nice like blue tones and grey tones that bring out her eyes, and I get the same vibe. And thank God for Anna Lightwood for saving Cordelia's ass and getting her these amazing new dresses, because I feel like once Cordelia feels more confident, that's when things start happening with her and James, and it's all good. So at the ball we are also introduced to Ariadne Bridgestock, and again, when I first read this I didn't pay any attention to her because I hadn't read Every Exquisite Thing. Having read that and totally loving the dynamic between Anna and Ariadne, and then rereading Chain of Gold and seeing her there, and there's this really good line that I think not many people picked up on, is when Lucy takes Cordelia over to the other young girls of the London Enclave, and they're talking about James and Matthew being really handsome, and they say to Ariadne, like, you know, do you not think that they are handsome? Oh yes, Ariadne says hastily, I suppose. The level of gay panic here, she's obviously so distracted by Anna Lightwood at this point, and she's just like, yeah, I suppose they are, but in her heart she's not even looking at them. When Cordelia describes Ariadne at this point, she talks about her gown of flattering wine-coloured silk, and I pictured the recent Charlie Bowater drawing of Ariadne. Obviously that print hadn't come out when I first read Chain of Gold, but now they have. I really know what Ariadne looks like, and I think that was just a nice extra rereading Chain of Gold, picturing this this photo. Okay, so when I first read Chain of Gold, I feel like I didn't really rate Lucy that much. I really wanted to because she's the child of two characters that I love, but I feel like this book was mainly about James's powers, and it's kind of like a running joke throughout the book that Lucy is always saying, oh, what about me? And I feel like many people sort of didn't take Lucy seriously enough, and there's a few quotes that again I didn't realise. So again, when they're talking about how good looking James and Matthew are, and she says, ah yes, he will be graced by my brother's attentions. When he was 6 he threw up in his own shoe. Great line by Lucy. Really reminds me of the throwaway lines that Tessa used to say in The Infernal Devices. She reminds me of her mother here so much, and I really love to see the character like progression from mother to daughter. I think that was a really nice touch that I didn't pick up on the first time I read the book. One thing I do want to pick up on is the fact that when James stops dancing with Grace and goes to find Cordelia, and he's looking for her in the crowd, and he mentions her hair, which is a deep dark red, and I just want to say I just wish people would stop drawing her ginger, because I click on it and I think, oh, that's Clary, and it's not. And so just a PSA, can we stop drawing her with ginger hair, please? She's clearly got this nice dark deep red hair, as stated by James. When Cordelia's talking about Henry, and she says she had forgotten that he was a veteran of the Clockwork War, I don't know why I find that really funny, because you're sort of like living the events in the Infernal Devices, so nothing has a name. So obviously in the Mortal Instruments, the uprising has happened and it's been solidified as the uprising, same as the Dark War in the Dark Artifices. But I feel like you never know the official name of what happened, and the fact that they've called it the Clockwork War is kind of cool. And I was just like, it's just one of those moments when you understand a reference because you've read the books and you just think, oh, you know, like, I understand that, I get that. I thought it was really interesting when Tessa says that she stopped aging at 19 and that her hair stopped growing at 19, because obviously she's 16 in the Infernal Devices, and it's kind of weird to think that she still had 3 years after that and then she just stopped aging. And then there's been a big jump now to Chain of Gold because Will is over 40. Thinking of me immortalised as my 19-year-old self forever is kind of scary, and I just think it's a nice little extra bit of information that really helps you build an image of Tessa. When James is talking about how Jem helped him stay in and out of the shadow realm and helped train him, I thought that was really, really cute. My favourite moment was when, on one memorable occasion, Jem borrowed Matthew's dog, riled him up and released him on an unsuspecting James during breakfast. I just wish I could have seen that. It's just the funniest thing. Jem is a silent brother, but he's like the cool silent brother that, you know, he does his job, but he also comes around and he does these like silly errands that Will makes him do. And I think it reminds me of Jem being Jem, and I just really like that. And it's nice to see that he had not a normal life, because he was still with the Silent Brotherhood and he still didn't see the London Institute gang enough, but that he still could be involved in some of the things they got up to. In one of the flashbacks, when they talk about when James was ill and Cordelia stayed with him, and she brings him loads of Persian fairy tale, and the reason why she chooses these Persian folklore is because one of the only English books in the house is A Tale of Two Cities, with the second half missing. I know that it's not Will's copy that he gave Tessa, but it made me think of Will's copy and the bit in The Mortal Instruments in Sebastian's apartment in Prague when Clary and Jace find Will's copy, and there's this line about how Clary can just about see the inscription that says like, "With hope at last, Will Herondale," and Jace is like, "Oh, some ancestor." It reminds me of that, and it just reminds me that when the apartment was destroyed, how Will's copy of this book was destroyed with it. It just makes me so sad, and I don't know if Cassie was intending to reflect on that, because obviously A Tale of Two Cities was a very popular book back then, but it just reminded me of how that copy's just gone forever, and I just got briefly very sad. And the final point that I want to bring up is a quote from Cordelia when Sona comes in and she's like tutting like, "Oh, Cordelia, you're alone in a boy's room." And Cordelia says what I think is one of my favourite lines ever by Cordelia. She says, "He can barely sit up and I'm a trained warrior who wields a mythical sword." I feel like it's just a great line, and it's such like a Tinder bio thing to put on. It's just great Cordelia Carstairs. Okay, so those are some of the important annotations, notes, references that I picked out reading chapters 1 to 3 again. In my next video I will talk about maybe the next 3 or 4 chapters, and I will continue to try and find tiny little references to other books or things that could be important in the long run. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and feel free to leave a comment about things you picked up if you've reread Chain of Gold, or even if you were lucky enough to find these things the first time. Any little tidbits, just leave them below, and I'd love to see what you guys come up with.